Okay, my friends, this is the smoking gun. Been talking about it for quite some time, ether, and we photographed it, Rod Warren and I, years ago, and trying to get somebody to look at it, and it appears that they have come around. UCI physicists confirm possible discovery of fifth force of nature. Light particle, which is what I will display and show you in extreme detail, could be key to understanding dark matter in universe. Guess what? It is the dark matter. Hello, my friends. That is red laser light. The laser portion is just about right there, and all this is being excited. This is ether. It's always been known, and now it's finally proven. This is that laser light now being accelerated, which light can be accelerated. This is the particle beam that I spoke of, which is the actual laser portion. It is now becoming compressed as it accelerates and violating each other's regions. These are the particles. Those are the particles of light right there. What you see here is two airplane wings. It's a Venturi. The collision into the Venturi creates atomization. And what comes out the other side of the atomized area, which is plasma at this point, all of these electrons should have a region around them. They no longer own that region. They're forced into each other's regions. They glow. That's what light is. You see these dots over here? All those little tiny white dots? You see those? I hope you can see them in this camera. Little bitty tiny white dots. That is ether. They're being compressed because this enormous interaction over at the Venturi is creating a huge reverse magnetic field, and all these particles are being excited into glowing, which is an energetic state. Now, at the other side of the Venturi, the emitted particles are trying to escape from each other because they're all negative, and that's what creates this pattern. They push the center ones in and they push the other ones out, and they create the stripes. That is the interference pattern. It has nothing to do with waves. That is Cherenkov radiation. These white filaments are what would be called Higgs bosons. These are the Higgs fields that are impacted by the charged particle that is coming out of here at an incredible intensity, smashing into the normal atmosphere, and creating the ether patterns around it, polarized ether patterns. This is a crushed field. It's being crushed from both sides. It is being flattened out, and it is exhibiting a higher energy level because of its being crushed more than these. That, I believe, is a negative part of a spinning particle, but it's spinning backwards. That's why it's showing no field but an extreme amount of energy. Same thing happens to Venus. It spins backwards in our solar system in the ether, which is rubbing into the ether backwards, and it overheats, and it's an extreme amount of heat. A very, very slow spin on its axis takes over 200 days, I think, to spin around one spin. We do it in 24 hours. We are scrubbing through the ether, causing these variations in our planet and on all of the planets in our solar system. We have to get into this ether. You have to understand ether. It solves unified theory, and I'm going to show you that right now. So if you don't pay attention to what you're going to see, you might as well just go about your business. I'm going to show you the reality of it, and you're going to have to leave Einstein out of this because he does not belong in this whatsoever. All right, it's as simple as this. I'm going to give you a little time to think it over. This is unified field theory. This is what Einstein could never come up with because he started from the wrong place. I'm going to show you the principles and the observations. Light is free electrons, and all energy is electronic. It's electrons impacting with other electrons or bonding with other materials. You know, when I put this little asterisk here, it means there are, you can have nuclear interactions with protons, but we'll go on about this. I'm saying that light, everything we know about in energy, heat, light, electricity, lightning, sonoluminescence, bioluminescence, static electricity, all is electrons, 100%. Light is particles. They're not waves of nothing. They collide, and the collisions are the energy when they smash into other items. Neutrons do not exist. Electrons flood the protons in a nucleus. There is no neutrons whatsoever. The protons are always solidly attached to their partners, which are the electrons, just like two magnets slapped together. Always, 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 the negative exceeds the positive. When it exceeds the positive, it keeps the remaining electrons in their orbits, because the positive still has a pull. And I will show you that. Well, let's show you that right now. Alright, this is Latham's Crazy Machines. This is what I am going to say is the nuclear core. Now watch what happens. That is a nuclear core. What that is it's a positive surrounded by negatives. It does this. That is quantum. The negatives and the positives create the core. They are solidly held together. They will not come apart easily. And there is always an additional electron push from the core. They always say, oh, the neutrons exceed the protons just a little bit. No, the negatives, the electrons exceed the protons by just a little bit. That is why these can't get to the core, because the positive's still pulling, but the excess negative here says, no, you cannot get in here. We got plenty here. Just stack up around here. And they'll stack up and stack up and stack up. They're called orbitals. When they finally, and they will be each directly apart from each other. And I'm doing experiments with a guy somewhere in Europe right now, and when we're seeing the rule of 8 everywhere in these experiments we're doing with light and with vibrations. So what we're seeing here is quantum. Now, when he shakes this, it will try to stay with the proton, with the nucleus. And as he shakes it, that will be heat. And as he shakes it and escapes, that will be light. And that is what we see. And the reason it is shaking is there's other ones banging around in here. There's other ones being flooded in, either from light coming in, electricity coming in, static being injected in, rubbing materials against each other, pulling electrons off of one, collecting on the other, magnets coming in. Whatever it is will cause this to shake. Even banging, just like that, causes electrons to shake. That is shaking electrons. This right here is going to shake, and then eventually, if you put so much into it, it will fly off, and that is light. It's getting hotter. Getting damn hot. Whoa, it's hot. Alright, no more of this. I'm out of here. Boop, gone. Alright, that was light. That's conduction. That's electricity. That's static discharge. That's lightning. That is all electronic movement. It's just exactly what you saw right there. You should watch this. It's very cool. Now watch this. This is quantum mechanics. This is quantum. Well, you know, they're trying to get in there. This one here, but he's letting them all come and pile up just the way electrons will. And the key to this, the reason I'm showing this, is that we know that these things will find their own places to surround, and then they will stack up in these elegant little patterns. Now, the key to take away here is that there's so many electrons floating in the space and static and attached to everything. They're ether, they're everywhere, they're ubiquitous. They are just like we are in water, and they are the water molecules, and we don't even know they're there. When one of these gets bounced out of there, instantly there's another one appears. Instantly. And I can show you that, and I will. Okay, so these are the slow-mo guys again. There's the firecracker going in. Now, there's two different exposure rates here. We're going to be able to see deep inside with this one, and this is going to be the surface area that we're going to see the outside, brilliant outsideness. This we're going to see the inside where the chemistry is going on. And I'm going to try to explain what's going on as it happens. So here we go. Now, it's going to go off and, it's going to go off and create a cavity in the water. So here it goes off. Now that's the inside. Now watch the expansion. It'll hit a spot where it stops expanding. All right, now it's still expanding, but here's what I want you to take away from this. You're going to start to see little glowing little lights here all around this area. And the reason is this was the firecracker. It's already used up all its firecrackerness. All the chemistry of its firecrackerness is gone. So it will additionally expand the water into a cavity where there's literally nothing there. Zero, nothing there. There's no water, there's no electricity, there's no nothing. So immediately the electrons, because this is 120,000 frames every second. I mean, this is fast. The electrons immediately invade that space. Immediately. That's what ether is. Now watch. Here it goes. You see, it's still going. Look at all the brilliant little lights starting to light up in here. They're filling this void with electrons. Those are electrons being sucked out of the water. Now, what will happen is it'll start to collapse. So it's fully expanded now. Now it says, well, okay, the water pressure's coming in. And it's going to, the firecracker's gone. There is no more firecrackerness here whatsoever. Why is this still glowing? Let's speak about that. The glow is from the compression now, and these are electrons, and they have nowhere to go. For some reason, the water will not let them back in easily because it's a polar molecule, and it can only accept so many on its surface. And at that point, you're going to end up with a ball of electrons, a literal ball of electrons. What happens then is it explodes. And that's why you get that second pulse up above. Now, this is gone inside there, but now it starts to glow again. Well, why does it start to glow again? I mean, we saw it blew up and used all of its stuff and lost its glow, and now it's glowing again because the electrons are crushing themselves into that space. And watch what happens. It'll say, just can't take it anymore. Pow! Gone. We're just still seeing the additional glow coming out through. All right? Pretty amazing. So we just saw electrons flood. I'm saying there are no neutrons. They never existed, and they do not exist. And electrons flood anything where there's nothing in it. That's the ether. And they will flood protons to overcome the protons and keep the additional electrons at bay. And we saw that. So the cores are strong positive, which overrides the electron flood. Additional electrons collect in the orbits. We observe that. We observe the flood of electrons. The universe is filled with electron ether. It is light. Light is ether. It comes from suns and solar masses and floods the universe. When it is in the ether is in the vacuum of space, it's dark. There's nothing for it to collide with. It's just passing through space waiting to interact. At that point, it is dark matter and dark energy. Light has no speed limit, and I will show you that. The laser light is clearly being accelerated and becoming excited as it crashes through and accelerates and reconstitutes itself. Quite obvious that's acceleration. We know it slows down going through water and other media. So, and John Glenn saw these particles in space and marveled at them and in great detail described them in his flight through the ionosphere, coming up into the sunlight. And the same thing happened in the Tether incident in 1996. They saw the same particles just coming into sunrise, and that's what they're illuminated by the sun and shielded by the earth. They see them illuminated in space. And I'll show you that. First of all, don't forget that tiny little beam is here. All the rest of this is being illuminated from pressures of expansion. These things are being compressed and glowing. That's the ether, and this is where the laser light is, just about that spot right there. Okay, this is from XX Persian Alien X. This is the Tether incident. They're watching all these things. They had no clue what to do. They're looking at it and saying, what are those things? We don't know. Just coming into sunrise. That is what they saw while they were looking at this tether. So this is 1996 tether overload incident, they called it, and they're just clueless as to what to say. And it said that we're just coming into sunrise. These will get washed out in a few minutes, which they will, because at a certain point they are in an area that is shaded. It's illuminated but shaded. All right, this is John Glenn, and he was reporting on what he saw going through the ionosphere. Now listen to this. It's Mars Moon Space TV, and John Glenn describes his fireflies. Now listen very carefully.
They lit up like they're luminescent. I never saw anything like it. They're coming by the capsule, and they look like little stars, a whole shower of them coming by. They swirl around the capsule and go in front of the window, and they're all brilliantly lighted. They probably average maybe 7 or 8 feet apart.
They average 7 or 8 feet apart. Very important. They have regions they possess. They do not bump into each other.
But I can see them all down below me also.
They just asked him if he could hear anything impacting on the capsule, which he says no, he cannot. And now he is in the ionosphere. There'll be no more response from ground control. He cannot communicate with them. He is inside these electrons.
Negative. They're very slow. They're not going away from me more than maybe 3 or 4 miles per hour.
These are electrons. They don't have a speed limit. They collect in the ionosphere. These things that are coming through, these fast ones, those are alpha particles of some sort. They are solar wind, part of fully formed particles in my mind, cosmic radiation, something like that.
They're going at the same speed I am, approximately. They're only very slightly under my speed. Over. They do have a different motion, though, from me, because they swirl around the capsule and then depart back the way that I am looking.
Swirl around the capsule. He's gliding through them like he was gliding through water.
Are you receiving? Over.
They can't hear him.
There are literally thousands of them. This is Friendship 7. Am I in contact with anyone? Over.
I was going to talk about sunrise.
This has been going on since about 1+15. Over. Just after I remarked about the sunset, I looked back up and looked out the window, and all the little swirl of particles was going by. Over.
It's exactly what you expect. Same thing exactly.
This is Friendship 7 broadcasting in the blind. Sunrise has come up behind in the periscope. It was brilliant in the scope, a brilliant red as it approached the horizon and came up. And just as I looked back up out the window, I had literally thousands of small luminous particles swirling around the capsule and going away from me at maybe 3 to 5 miles per hour.
You see that? There's no speed limit for these particles. These are electrons.
Now that I am out in the bright sun, they seem to have disappeared.
All right, now they're washed out, obviously. He was in an area where the sun was like shielding them. They're being lit up by the sun, but they're in a shadow. Now, it's pretty obvious what they're looking at is these particles are the emissions from the sun, which eventually will reach the earth, and they're actually going to be sucked to the earth like that little magnet was pulled, and you saw it come in, slammed right in. It tried to hit the nucleus, but it couldn't. And that's what's happening with our electrons coming from the sun to us, and that is dark energy. All right, so let's finish this up. We got the universe is filled with electron ether, absolutely filled. Everything that comes out of the sun hits us came through space. It came through space, obviously. And it goes in every other direction too. So the universe, and it's from every glowing body in the universe, and we know it is filled with glowing bodies. So the universe is filled with these electrons, and that is the ether, and that is the light. And ether in a vacuum of space where it has nothing to collide with is dark. And dark means it's the dark energy and dark matter they've been looking for. When it finally hits something, that is when it makes it compress and light up. Light has no speed limit. Obviously, we saw that. So what is energy? Energy is mass. Energy equals mass. Case closed. What is mass? Mass is whatever the particle was resting. If it was rested at a pound or 5 pounds or 10 pounds sitting on a table doing nothing, then you multiply that times the frequency, which is how fast is it spinning, then times the forward speed that it's going, and then you have to take into account the impact medium that it's impacting into, obviously, because the mass will be different. If it hits something fluffy, it's sort of poof, and if it hits something hard, the mass will obviously increase by the resistance of the impact medium. All right? So that is unity. We just went in unity. So please do not give me any Einstein photons that are nothing, because that was just absolute nonsense. A photon of nothing, it consists of nothing but magnetic nothing, does nothing. It does nothing. It is nowhere. It goes nowhere. It never was anywhere. It is nothing. Nothing is nothing. It creates nothing, does nothing. The energy level of it is nothing, and it isn't there. It isn't there. Nothing just is nothing. So let's just get away from Einstein. Everything he said, I'm telling you right now, wasn't right. And none of the Morley double slit experiment, totally flawed. Hubble taking Einstein's theory that nothing can slow down. It's just that these particles are slowing down. It's obvious. It's not that speeding up now faster than the speed of light, which and E equals mc squared never worked because energy requires mass. And he said light has no mass. No mass means no energy. So light has no energy, according to Einstein himself. All right, so come to Mud Fossil University, find out the reality of reality and the unity of unified theory. All right, Mud Fossil University on YouTube. And I would like to have some peer review of this. I've sent it off to all the major people and tried to engage in anything, sending them this and that. Not a single word from anyone. Not a word, not a single response. Zero. There's no interest whatsoever in anything that they don't already feel is true. None whatsoever. And I have other research that's just totally avoided too, and that's the mud fossils. And that's why I named this Mud Fossil University, because we have to get away from this nonsense of these people running our lives in fantasy land. All right? Mud Fossil University, a citadel of truth in a desert of delusion. Okay, my Mud Fossil friends, that ends it for today, but we are going to be looking at what is the proton made of. You know, I can see the electron, I believe. We're seeing the particle that I showed, those little green particles, red particles. They look like old atomic symbols. But what happens in this proton and in the nucleus? That I'm trying to understand. I thought it was like a bunch of marbles that were the protons and packed into like a snowball of electrons. And I still think that that's probably what's going on. But could it be a bar? Could it be one side is positive, one side is negative? I don't think so, because it's surrounded by negatives. I think it has to be a circle of like snowball effect, like I just mentioned. But we're going to look at that and try to think about it and see if there's any way we can come up with an idea of what we might be seeing. Because it's that part... I have no idea, and I have no idea why that little particle that we saw. Well, let me show you something. All right, we saw coming out of the accelerator, and then these are these particles. What are they made of? What are they made of? I mean, are they like grains of sand or something? I mean, I just don't know. I know there's some kind of energy going on. When I see bright and I see dark, I know there's energy going on, and I can see two forms of energy. Energy and no energy, and that's just like binary code. What is going on inside that little bugger, I do not know. And I'm playing around with another guy. We're trying to figure out what might be happening, but it's very, very confusing. So, you know, there's a lot to learn here. I mean, it's not all over here by any means. You know, even if you accepted everything that I said. It brings it back into a whole new realm, but it's not by no means over. I have no clue what any of these little things are and how they actually create this energetic effect, and why they own that little region. What are those little things? That's the kind of thing we're going to start to think about. And, that's going to be some serious thinking because I got no idea. I mean, I see them. I say they're particles. And then another guy I'm arguing with, Pete, I love you, Pete, brother, but I see particles. He says, I don't know, I don't see any particles. Well, he may not see particles. I don't know. Maybe they're not particles. But they do something, and they have some mass to them. That I can see. That I'm almost 100% positive of. They are not massless things. That's my take on it.